and thanks everyone for dialing in today. Excited to talk about what is unified remediation. So let's hop right into it. What is unified remediation? This is probably a new term or a new concept that people might be unfamiliar with, so let's dive straight in. So let me start with the what. What does unified remediation entail? So first, it's the correlation and prioritization of your security data. So that lets teams align on what needs to be fixed and what needs to be fixed first and in which order. So once that's been accomplished, it's also the ability to orchestrate remediation actions across those fixes, ideally at the root cause level. So you're fixing once at the root source and not having to fix issues that have been detected again that have the same root cause. So what about the who? So who would be involved in unified remediation? As the name implies, remediation operations should work across multiple teams. This is what it means to unify remediation, not just from a technology perspective, but also from a process perspective. So you could have a security analyst responsible for deciding what should be fixed, but maybe a developer is responsible for making that fix. And this is just one example. But the idea is both people have access to the same data and the context to make any given fix in the remediation process. And then most importantly, why? Why should we do this? Why should we try and unify remediation operations? The reason we're talking about this is because there are a lot of point solutions that aren't designed for remediation. And this is why remediation has remained an aspect of security that's often overlooked or not improved upon. So detection tools might have point features to try and fix an issue, maybe fix a configuration of a resource, but they obviously often don't fix the root cause of an issue. And that means a lot of these issues simply recur and they happen again. So a detection tool is often deployed on a single aspect of the tech stack as well. So you might have an EDR agent that is installed on laptops and workstations, and maybe it has certain fixed capabilities. You might have the same thing for vulnerability scanners or cloud detection tools, and they might look at certain resources or certain issues and code security risks. So we believe that having all security issues in one place and being able to fix them all from one platform is what will really help teams meaningfully reduce their mean time to remediate and thereby reduce security risk. So let's talk specifically about components of a unified remediation platform. So the first is coverage. So as I've kind of alluded to, a unified remediation platform should be able to ingest, correlate, and prioritize security issues from the entire tech stack. So this could be code and applications, it could be devices and hosts on a network, and it could be cloud workloads and more. Second is context. So similar to coverage, which issues are actually correlated together, which are grouped together, what are the same issues, and what's the context coming from all these different security detection tools you might already have in place. So this could be your AppSec tools, your vulnerability management scanners, and other security tools. The third is business logic. So adding to the security context is the context of your business. So you should be able to weigh and prioritize risks according to not only the security issue that's detected, but also the risk it presents within your specific business environment. So for example, what data is processed on a certain resource, what applications are affected by a certain vulnerability or weakness. This is the kind of logic that's critical for prioritization. The fourth is root cause analysis. This is very important, and this is an area where DAS happens to shine. A unified remediation platform should tell you what the root cause of an issue is, again, so that fix could be applied at that root cause level to prevent the recurrence of vulnerabilities. Fifth is remediation orchestration. So how can you trigger fixes from this platform? And that can take many forms. It could be an automated ticket for a developer with all the context they need to make a fix, or it could be an automated pull request, depending on your appetite for automation and what your process looks like today. But these actions need to be customizable, and they need to happen in whichever processes and technologies you're already using. And a unified remediation platform should be able to facilitate that. 6 is AI. Now, we don't say AI just because every software company should have AI today, but AI actually has a massive potential to streamline remediation. So language learning models, for instance, have the ability now to not only detect security issues, but also to recommend the best fix, especially in the case of fixing code issues. So teams should consider platforms that have clear AI capabilities, and more importantly, those that have a clear roadmap on how they're going to incorporate AI for remediation efforts when testing data and maturity continues to grow. And then 7th, and finally, reporting and security governance. So how do you track these remediation efforts continuously? How do you monitor them? A unified remediation platform should be able to automatically report on these key metrics, such as mean time to remediate, and how certain teams are tracking against remediating issues that they own. So now that I've covered what unified remediation is, why should we do it now? Why should companies and security leaders begin to think about actually unifying their remediation efforts? The first is attacks are happening faster, and this is especially true in cloud environments. So this is one recent research report which shows that in cloud environments, attacks can be carried out now in just hours. And this is the actual initial compromise up until when data is exfiltrated outside of the environment. So this is obviously a big challenge for security teams today, because it doesn't necessarily matter how fast you can detect something. If you can't fix it very quickly, that attack can still be carried out and that risk will go unmitigated. The second is attack surfaces are continuing to grow, and they're growing in multiple dimensions. One of the largest areas of growth is the software supply chain and the use of open source apps and libraries. And this has brought to attention things like SBOMs and the use of software composition analysis tools. And more security issues are stemming from the use of open source. And that means security teams should invest not only detecting these issues, but programmatically reducing the risk and remediating the risk of open source as well. Now, of course, cloud services also continue to increase. So cloud is no longer really the future, but the present. And on-prem environments are still a thing, and those will never go away completely. But companies continue to deploy more cloud workloads and buy more SaaS services. So the use of cloud services is absolutely continuing to expand, and thereby expanding the attack surface. And then finally, hybrid environments and hybrid workers. So many companies today are still operating in a hybrid environment where they have some workers in the office certain days a week and some workers home for some days as well. And this means that workers are accessing company data from more networks and devices than ever before. And there's been a pretty rapid increase in the number of devices per employee. So whether it's physical devices, whether it's open source libraries and applications, or whether it's more cloud workloads being deployed, the attack surface is growing, which means that there are more security detections, and remediation operations need to scale accordingly with all of this. And then finally is increased scrutiny. So this is taking many shapes and forms. The one example I'll highlight here is the SEC rule, which actually will take effect this week for some companies here in the US. This has put a lot of importance on disclosing material incidents now within the span of 4 days. But what we're seeing with this current case against SolarWinds is disclosing incidents is just one part of the problem. And companies are now having to demonstrate that they're reducing cyber risk. So this means as the scrutiny continues to grow, remediation should be a backbone of your cyber risk management strategy. So showing that you have the right security controls in place is one part of the equation, but actually demonstrating that you're remediating and mitigating cyber risk it will be compelling to executives and regulators who are taking greater concern over how companies are protecting customer and sensitive data. So what challenges can unified remediation solve? A unified remediation platform can help you answer many questions, and here's a few of them. How many alerts are false positives or duplicates? So again, by unifying all of your security detection tools and correlating this data, you can understand which alerts are actually the ones to act on and which are just being duplicated across various tools that are seeing the same vulnerability or same weakness. Do we have exploitable vulnerabilities in production? So this is another very important question to answer. It's not about knowing that a vulnerability exists, but also knowing the context of where it exists and what the impact is. Which vulnerabilities should be fixed first? So again, I alluded to this earlier, but having the ability to prioritize, whether that's with your own custom logic or using out-of-the-box prioritization, understanding which vulnerabilities to fix first is extremely important. Even more important than that is who can actually make that fix? Who's the best person to make that fix? Unified remediation platforms should be able to identify the person who's most able to make the fix, especially if it's a code-based vulnerability where a developer might be responsible for making changes to eliminate the risk. What's the actual best way to make that fix? So again, a unified remediation solution should be able to suggest the actual fix that should be made, saving a lot of time and effort so that the person who needs to make the fix doesn't have to research every possible solution. It can simply take the advice and decide whether or not to use it themselves. And importantly, how can we automate the fix next time? So if one vulnerability is remediated, how can we remediate a similar vulnerability that's a similar type of classification happening on a similar type of resource where this, someone from the same department might be the owner that needs to follow up? How can we automate that the next time so that our remediation operations get faster and faster and we can keep up with the attack landscape? So unified remediation can help with a lot of other technologies and practices that are becoming very popular across security and software development organizations today. The first is DevSecOps. So in the case of DevSecOps, unified remediation can help developers remediate issues faster and work more efficiently with security teams. So this is an important thing to consider if you're trying to implement DevSecOps practices at your company. The same goes for continuous threat exposure management, also known as CTEM. CTEM is really the next evolution of vulnerability management, focusing on reducing the risk of vulnerabilities and exposures. And in this instance, unified remediation really fulfills that response element of CTEM as it's defined, and really helps reduce the risk to exposures and vulnerabilities that have been detected. Third is application security posture management, or ASPM. And now, since unified remediation, again, as I mentioned earlier, should include the scope of code and applications, it can help solve many use cases associated with ASPM and give a view into the risk of any application. So by specific code repo or by specific project, how many vulnerabilities are associated with it and who can follow up. And then finally, CNAPP, or Cloud Native Application Protection. Again, since unified remediation platforms should also connect directly to cloud environments and to CNAPP platforms, it can offer greater actionability to actually employ fixes across cloud resources on top of CNAPP detections. So now that I've talked a lot about unified remediation capabilities and why they're important and what they can help with, let me briefly highlight the DAS approach here. So at DAS, we view remediation as a data problem. Accordingly, we've built an agentless SaaS platform that connects using read-only APIs to development platforms, code repos, cloud infrastructure, your physical infrastructure, and your security stack. Our approach can be boiled down into three concepts. The first is discover. DAS connects to, again, your code repos, your CI/CD pipelines, cloud and hybrid infrastructure, and security tooling to create a full graph of risk wherever they originate. Now that allows security teams to understand code to cloud deployment processes, unify risk and prioritize them from all tools, and identify architecture gaps. The second is reduce. So the platform correlates, deduplicates, and reduces the noise of alerts, duplicate alerts, false positives, and we identify the root cause of these problems. So this allows security teams to focus on the most critical CVEs, misconfigurations, or exploitable secrets that are being found across their environment. And then finally, fix. So in the case of application-based vulnerabilities, DAS can automatically find the code owners and arm them with contextual and actionable remediation steps so they can fix issues quickly in their native dev environment. So I wanted to highlight a few last resources here that might be helpful if you're looking to learn more about unified remediation. Now at the bottom here, we have two guides here. One is a CISO's guide to AI for cloud security remediation, excuse me, which really explores how AI can employ a lot of benefits for remediation processes. We also have a cloud security remediation guide for dummies. So if you're new to understanding cloud security concepts and how to remediate issues specifically in the cloud, this book was written exclusively to help with those issues. Excuse me, I have a tickle in my throat still. And then finally, next week, you can join us to learn everything about secret scanning. Another key capability that unified remediation platforms can help you with is not only detecting secrets, but showing you exactly how to fix the secrets that present the most risk in your environment. And now, as I'm losing my voice, I'm happy to take any final questions. And if not, thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you learned something new.
Thank you so much, Noah. Have some tea or a good gulp of water. Thank you so much for that presentation. Folks on the line, I've popped my email address into the chat. If you have any questions or if you want me to direct you to anyone on our team to get a deeper dive into unified remediation and the platform and how we can work with you. And also, as Noah alluded to, I popped in a link to our dummies guide, which is really fun and interesting to read, super fast read. So I hope that you'll take a peek at that as well. But until then, we hope you'll join us for our session next week. And in the coming weeks, we have a lot coming up for these sessions and webinars going forward. So thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you next time. Take care, everyone, and happy holidays.